biggest glitch. Here is the glitch you need to know about. This is the process that you need to grasp that happens in the brain, is that the moment uncertainty happens, that's that guy looking at setups, and suddenly he's got the confirmation, and then he has to go in and he actually has to lay down risk. He has to pull the trigger. That's where the uncertainty is. He gets inside the trade, and by God, that's really uncertain. Unfortunately, what it does is uncertainty produces ambiguity. And to the brain, when it experiences ambiguity, produces confusion. And it is going to jump to any conclusion that it's learned. Anything to get out of the confusion. Usually that's fear. And what you'll see is these are highly reactive patterns that have been formed during what I call the formative period. I don't necessarily like to use the word childhood because everybody gets touchy and feely. Fundamentally, the developing brain has a formative period where it's forming the way it's going to respond to the world. And it's going to respond unless it's changed. It's going to respond by avoiding uncertainty, producing hesitation, producing impulse. So there's the thing. If you got a social brain, that's the way it works. And my friends, the thing that we're about to start right now, where you see the transformation of a human being into the Hulk here. What we're doing tonight, what we're about to learn, is how to interrupt the arousal of an emotion before it hijacks your thinking. We're not going to be too worried about what its motivation is. We're not going to be really worried right now about the meaning of it. We're not going to be worried about the internal dialogue. We're not going to be worried about inner heroes. What we're going to be concerned with only is how do we interrupt arousal so that a switch is not turned on that turns a human being into a crazy person. And that's what we're about to do. So, fundamentally, here's the deal, is that without emotional regulation skills, you don't get to the mind. So the rest of the night is going to start becoming very experiential, and we're going to be talking about how to work with the brain to get at the mind. So the emotional brain simply has to be managed before you get to the beliefs of the mind. That's the ticket. Nobody likes it. I don't like it. The truth is, though, it doesn't matter whether or not I like or dislike it. It's the way the brain works. It's the way the mind works. So this is where we start. And the yogas from 4 to 5,000 years ago, the Hebrews from 4 or 5,000 years ago, the Buddhists from 2,500 years ago, the early Christians before Constantine knew this. They practiced this. And this is what we're going to learn. It's just that we're going to learn it in a more scientific approach that we can learn much more rapidly. So now we're ready. Now we've had the preamble. Now that we understand emotional nature a little better, we're now going to say the first skill that we're going to develop is emotional regulation, getting a handle on your emotions. Fundamentally, we're going to start interrupting the arousal and motivational elements of fear. And that is going to give you the capacity to manage the emotion so that it does not sweep away rational thinking. Okay? And after tonight, you'll be practicing this stuff, and I'm going to be asking you to observe as you trade. You're literally going to be observing how your body reacts in trading and how you can see the connection between the body and what happens to the mind. And you're going to start interrupting how that body arouses and gets excited, and we're going to start seeing how it affects trading. Breathing and relaxation are the keys in emotional regulation. And then at the end of this thing, we're going to be training on a relaxation response. It's actually evolved a long ways from Herbert Benson. We're going to be using stress inoculation as a way of being able to begin to train a neural pathway that can fire at the same time that the fear neural pathway fires and collapse that thing so that you have a split second to be able to get yourself under control the way it's not happening now. So what I want to do, now what we're going to do, we're going to take a look at breathing. And for those of you who already do breathing, and for those of you who have done my work and are reviewing, please review this simply because ultimately I teach bellows breathing rather than just diaphragmatic breathing. And the key is that breathing is no good if it's kept in the yoga studio or kept in your little meditation place. Breathing in trading is only good if it can be employed while in the midst of trading under stress, so that you keep the stress not going to fear, but you keep the stress in a place where you can keep it calm and you can manage it so that it's working for you. Very different. The one thing you need to know about stress, stress actually is a physiological state, and it's defined as, depending on interpretation, depending on the observer looking at the aroused state, is that it is either eustress, which is good stress, it's got you keyed up, it gets you very focused, or distress, where what happens is the body's ready to flee. What matters and what counts, the difference, is the observer of those two events. The chemistry is the same. The observer showing up. That starts occurring later in the course, but the thing is that for distress not to take us out before we even get to the mind, this is where we start. The key about breathing, it's a unique thing. You go to sleep tonight, and for you guys in Australia, I guess when you go back to sleep a little later today, is that you're going to go to sleep and you're going to breathe. You're not going to have to think about breathing. It's involuntary. The unique thing about breathing is that, yes, it is involuntary. You know, you can try to hold your breath. When I was working with dangerous kids, you know, the thing is, they would tell me they're going to hold their breath and they're going to die from asphyxiation. I'd say, try it. Let's see if you can do it. And of course they can't. The key is that it's automatic. However, it's also volitional. You can use breathing to manage emotion. You can use it to produce a calm state of mind. You can use it to control heart rate and blood pressure. And you can use it to control adrenaline and cortisol. Herbert Benson is the guy who scientifically proved this during the 1980s. The Yogas and the Hebrews knew this many, many thousands of years ago. They didn't know the science of it. Herbert Benson figured the science of it out. So what we're going to do, we're going to start practicing breathing. And we're going to start, first we're going to practice it to see how it works. Then what we're going to do is we're going to start putting it in the test where we use breathing as a way of managing stress while trading. If you're smart, and if you've done any of this work before, here's what I want you to do, is to start thinking back to the way you trade and whether or not you have any mindfulness at all of the way you breathe or the tenseness in your body as you trade. If you do, write it down. This is invaluable information. It's invaluable information. The whole key that you need to understand about breathing and emotion is that every emotion has a breathing signature. Every emotion has a tenseness signature. And the key is that when you break one element of the signature of that emotion, what you do is you collapse the ability of that emotion to take control of mind. With breathing, fear usually has no breath or very rapid breathing, and it's only using a sixth of the lung. By manually, volitionally changing the breathing pattern, what you do is you disrupt the arousal of the fear emotion. And by doing that, you're managing your ability to stay in impartiality. That's the ticket, my friends, okay? The same thing with tenseness is that, like with anger and or fear, you will find your body getting all cranked up, from jaws to eyes to digestive problems, all that stuff. And the key is when you start controlling that tenseness, you disrupt the arousal element of the emotion before it flips a switch and takes over. That's the key. So we're going to be describing bellows breathing. And bellows breathing is a form of breathing that has been used, again, for thousands of years. This is not cutting-edge technology, as a way to calm mind. And ultimately what happens is, in bellows breathing, what is so radically different than in the typical way that an American breathes is that air moves from the outside, it comes into your nostril, it's pulled down into your belly, where it expands, and then it expands to the upper chest. It's held, then it's released slowly. As I talk this, what I ask you to do is to begin to follow my words and notice this breathing. Typical breathing in American families or American performances is that There is no awareness of it, and it's very shallow. The best people usually use about a third of their lung capacity, which means oxygen's not going to get to brain, which means rational thinking is really hard. So we're actually teaching this. So what happens is that if you can imagine a bellows in your belly, okay, one of those fire things that you use in fireplaces that blacksmiths use, and the handles are pointing down, and the nozzle is pointing up toward your windpipe. What you're doing is you're using your abdominal muscles and your back muscles, the lower back muscles, to pull air. And it is going to pull air down your nostrils, down your windpipe, into your belly. It then will expand to chest. You hold, and then you release slowly. Now, let me know, as we go along here, please let me know if you're having difficulty doing this, okay? You're using a bellows. Imagine that there's a bellows in your belly, and you're pulling the handles with both your gut muscles and your back muscles. You're pulling air from the nose, down the windpipe, into the belly, expanding to chest, and releasing. You got it? That's bellows breathing. And I actually learned that from a teacher of voice. So ultimately, what we're looking at, with your bellows, you pull air into belly, you expand to chest, you hold, you release. Okay, you ready for a practice? What I want you to do is follow my words, and I'll be the first one to admit that I may be a little too fast. Do we have a question?
Sometimes they ask how long they should hold their breath.
Oh, this holding your breath in this case is only for a moment. What you're doing is kind of like the tide coming in, and there's a moment where it starts receding. There's a moment. You hold for just a moment, and then you begin releasing. If you were doing it as a really serious yoga student, you'd be holding it longer, but I'm not interested in that. I am interested in being able to disrupt an emotion from flaring and to be able to produce a state of calm. We're doing some modification or trading. So now what let's do is let's practice this and just follow my words and try to keep up with me. If you can't, don't, okay? You will have decades and decades of habituation of your breathing style, and you're not going to change it in the next 10 minutes, okay? However, this is a practice where you're going to retrain body memory to be able to produce a calm state of mind. So if you can, wherever you are, if you're in a chair in front of a computer screen or wherever, what I ask you to do is to find a comfortable place and begin to sink into the surface that's supporting you and just become aware of the tenseness in your body or the relaxation of your body and your breathing. Just become aware of it. Just notice how air just simply comes in and it goes out. But this time what happens is what you're going to do is you're going to pull air in through your nose, down your windpipe, into your belly. It's going to expand to chest. You hold, and then you release slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. Move air into belly, expand to chest, hold, release slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. Move air into belly, expand to chest, hold, release slowly. Move air into belly, expand to chest, hold, release slowly. Air to belly, expand to chest, hold, release slowly. A few more times. I want you to notice the mood alteration that occurs as you do this. Move air into belly, expand to chest, hold, release slowly. Move air into belly, expand to chest, hold, release slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. Move air into belly, expand to chest, hold, release slowly. Okay, you got that? Now, what I want you to do is to notice the difference it makes in mood. I want to show you a few slides about the way this thing is done one more time, okay? The first one is when you're moving air to belly. Air is literally coming into your nose. It is going straight down to your belly. The next thing that's happening is that it is moving from your belly up to your chest. Then what happens is you're going to hold, okay? And as you hold, then what happens is you release. Now, let me ask you something. Is this what you were doing? Okay? And my question here is what I would love some feedback is to the impact that this simple breathing exercise had on your mood. Can anybody share what this was like for them? I need to give it a few moments. I do ask that you try this. I do ask that you start noticing. What I'm asking of you is to notice how you can use a volitional biomechanical tool like breathing to alter mood and emotion. It's really important.
One says more relaxed.
More relaxed.
And then one says I feel neutral.
I feel neutral. Boy, what a great place to trade from. Yes. Okay, now, what we're doing is we're beginning to notice, okay, that we can use breathing as a way to impact emotion. Okay, here's some more. It was calming. Yeah, wouldn't it be great to be able to calm yourself down while trading? Seemed easier to focus and see. Amen. That's the piece I really want to see. Yes, you're actually getting to the thing. It's what happens is that fear is going to cause a lot of distraction, okay, and you're not going to be able to focus. As a matter of fact, I would say a lot of the ADD and the ADHD in the world, particularly here in Charlotte, North Carolina, that schools love to basically make boys pathological because they're highly active, and they call them ADHD, give them on speed, slow them down. The key is by breath, you can literally slow yourself down. When you slow yourself down, your focus is there, and suddenly taking focus and getting into the zone for trading becomes a lot easier. Let's take this one more step. Okay, now, and this is something, friends, I ask that as you're going through this tape, this recording that you're getting, and as you're going through the slides, what I'm asking you to do is to practice this exercise. It needs to become second nature, and it's going to take a long time because you will have decades and decades and decades of breathing in such a way that produces stress and fear, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to take one more step. What we're going to do is we're going to use this, and now what we're going to do in our imagination, we are going to see some of our worst situations in trading. First thing I want you to do, without trading, without breathing, excuse me, what I want you to do is in your imagination, it's kind of like, you've got a screen up there and you're looking at the imagination, you pull up one of your best memories of what it's like when you're trading and things are going bad. And usually they're looking at setups and trying to find the entry point and being able to pull the trigger, or it's being inside the trade, particularly before you take any risk off and you're in there and the thing's just really bouncing around on you, going sideways and up and down, getting close to your stop, and it's just, you've got, what do I do, and you start feeling it build. Or if you get past that stage and you're heading toward, is this thing going to even get to the target? Oh my God, let me just get out with a little bit of profit. Or when you lose. And all of a sudden you start beating yourself out, you just feel horrible, all that stuff. Okay? What I want you to do is to imagine, I want you to imagine that. One of those places, and if you have one that's a little different than that, I just picked 4 of the biggest places in trading where traders have problem and lose their stuff and lose their mind and make fools of themselves. Okay? Here, what we're going to do, now you've got that. On that memory, if you're taking notes, write down a little bit about your memory, about the panic, about the fear, and about just the sense of disorganization, the confusion that was going on, the ambiguity, and how it melted into fear. Okay? That's all the stuff that we've gone through the first part of the course. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go through that same scene that you selected, and with only breathing and some relaxation, I'm going to add a relaxation component to this, okay? We're going to look at it And we're going to see the same thing, and we're going to see the difference you can make as you learn to volitionally manage your breathing. Okay, here's what I want you to do. Let's start off, get yourself comfortable, get in that chair, and the very first thing, let's go back to bellows breathing. Remember what happens with that bellows, you are pulling air from the outside through your nose, down your windpipe, into your belly, expanding to chest, holding, releasing. Okay? Now I'm going to cut that short, and I'm going to also be saying air to belly. I'm going to cut all that out, but I'm going to be adding an element here and release tension. Let the tension drain, drain, drain until you're loose and limp, like a rag doll. So we're going to be adding one more moment to it, okay? And this time what I'm going to ask you to do, in your mind, I want you to hold the memory of the fear-based or impulse-based trading that you've done in the place you've had problems. So starting out, you're in the chair, you're beginning to focus on your breathing, you move air to belly, expand to chest, hold, release slowly. And as you release, let the tension in your body drain, drain, drain until you're loose and limp, loose and limp like a rag doll. One more time. Move air to belly, expand to chest, hold, release. And as you release your breath, release your tension in your body. Let it drain, drain, drain until your whole body becomes loose and limp, loose and limp, like a rag doll. Let's do 3 of these. Air to belly, expand to chest, hold, release slowly. And as you release, let the tension drain, 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 like honey out of a jar, until you're loose and limp, loose and limp, like a rag doll. From this state, as you continue breathing air to belly, expanding chest, hold and releasing, relaxing the tense body, letting the tension drain, in your mind's eye, pull up the scene. See yourself in that scene. But this time, even though you see yourself in trouble, see yourself beginning to be swallowed in fear, what happens is here in your chair, you continue breathing air into belly, expanding to chest, hold, release, and releasing the tension too, and draining. You're keeping the memory in mind, okay? You can see the action going on. Just by breathing, though, what I want you to notice is what difference occurs in your interpretation of possibility as you watch the thing unfold. Air to belly, expand to chest, hold, release, let the tension drain, drain, drain. As you hold the memory up, you're looking at the memory, you're watching, very focused on your breath, you're keeping yourself calm simply by breathing and by releasing tension. You're watching the memory, and notice how the memory changes as you're able to maintain your calmness and keeping your body relaxed and breathing air to belly, expand to chest, hold, release, draining tension. You're watching the scene and notice the difference by not being sucked into the scene of fear, of tense body, of rapid shallow breathing or no breathing. Notice the difference it makes in your ability to see what you can do. Notice that. Okay. Well, if you drifted off there, please come back. Let's wake up. Give me some comments about what you just noticed about this piece of memory work. Everybody, practically any trader who has paid their dues in their journey of trading has had experiences like this. Now what I'm asking is give me some feedback about what you found in the difference between how you were able to manage and hold yourself together while reproducing the memory. Here we go. When you say see yourself in the scene, are you supposed to see it from a first-person point of view or a third-person point of view, like watching a movie of yourself? In NLP terms, you are associated or you know, I don't use that. What happens is that, particularly dissociation for me is a very powerful word. I'm a licensed therapist, and the ability to produce mindfulness or observation is phenomenally different than dissociation, which is based on fear. Is you can do both. If you're watching something in your mind, you're watching it in third person. However, the thing is that the thing you need to get is that there is never a total separation between the observer and participant. That's the whole key in this work, is that you may wish, in a lot of Zen work, what happens is there is this assumption that you become a detached observer of events. The truth is biologically that can't happen. You are both participant and observer of the event. We're in quantum mechanics here. Okay. The anxiety was not as intense. Exactly. That's what we're doing. So what we're seeing here is that by one simple use of breathing that we can alter the intensity of emotion. Okay? Has anybody else got a comment about what they discovered? Okay. Well, in that case, what we've discovered here is that we can use breathing, we can use relaxation, and what we can do is that we can alter our emotional response to a stressful situation. We can move away from distress to a moment of calmness where we can make different choices. Now, we're going to move from here to another element. Okay? We are